Hi, I'm Roy Petitfils, a counselor in Lafayette, Louisiana, where I specialize in working with teenagers. I've recently authored a new book from Ave Maria Press, Helping Teens with Stress, Anxiety, and Depression, a field guide for Catholic parents, pastors, and youth leaders. Today, I'd like to spend a few minutes answering a question I'm often asked, which is, why is talking about mental health issues so important? And how does talking about it actually help people? I'm reminded of a definition that I heard recently of contemplative prayer by Father John McNamara, who said it's a long, loving look at the real. And that would be the first reason that it's so important for us to talk about mental health issues, because it's very real. 1 in 8 teenagers will experience a major depression while they're in high school, and only 1 in 5 of those teens will get help. 1 in 4, maybe in some cases 1 in 3, young people will have a diagnosable anxiety disorder. 1 in 4 teenagers cut, carve, or burn themselves in order to feel better. 1 in 5, 1 in 6 young people have a diagnosable eating disorder. And perhaps most importantly and most significantly, that suicide continues to be the second leading cause of death amongst teens today, and it's growing, especially in boys who are 13 and under. So it's very real. And a lot of times, because it's not something that we can see physically in the body, like you can if you have a rash or some other medical illness, we tend to think, well, maybe it's not real. We assume that it's something that may have to do with someone being weak-willed or weak-minded, when nothing could be further from the truth. We can see depression in the brain through fMRI scans and some amazing technology that we have today. We can see anxiety, bipolar, even schizophrenia in the brain. We know what that looks like. So the old thing that, well, is it real? It is very real. It's very real, and it has nothing to do with a lack of willpower. And in many cases, the research is showing that there are strong genetic links, and that people they did nothing other than inherit either genetic markers or some strong inclinations toward having those types of issues. So it's real. The second reason is that it's important is because it's so stigmatized. People who experience these issues think that there's something intrinsically wrong with them. You know, unlike when you have the flu, right? You have the flu, right? No one's ashamed to go to the doctor or to get Theraflu or, some other medication when you have the flu. But to be able to go to your doctor or to be able to go to a counselor or a therapist and say, I'm really struggling with depression, there's a sense of shame in it because we feel like it's intrinsically tied to our personality. And we've bought into so many lies and misinformation that this is something that we should just be able to willpower our way out of or be able to think our way out of. And those stigmas keep people from coming forward and getting the help that they need and the treatment that they need. And today we've got so many treatment approaches. We've got so many options, including therapy, behavioral therapy, all different types of therapy. We've got medication. And for a lot of people, just being able to talk about it and admit it to someone else helps them immediately. Just to be able to, because, I've heard it said once that which goes unsaid controls the relationship. That which is kept in darkness, as Jesus said, must and will come to the light. And when we can bring these things and folks can come to us and share with us these real struggles that they're having and mental health issues, in doing so, they are bringing them to the light of God's grace and makes it possible, even more possible and more likely for them to experience healing, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's done away with, but it definitely means that they can get some help. The third reason is that when you can name something, you can tame it, right? So when you can name, okay, I have depression. Well, now I know what I can do about it. If I just walk around thinking that I'm feeling sad and that I'm the only one in the world feeling sad, and I really don't know what that means for 3 months, then I might have a hard time actually treating it and taming it and getting control over it. And because mental health tends to be more ambiguous than a lot of the other hard sciences and empirical sciences, and the symptoms are very hard to self-measure, right? You're feeling sad, but how sad? right? How sad am I? And that's something hard to measure. Whereas with physical pain, oh, I hurt my knee. Well, how bad does it hurt on a scale of 1 to 10? Well, when I broke my leg, that was a 10, so I guess maybe my knee's a 6. It's difficult to do that inside oneself, by oneself, around mental health issues. And so we don't talk about it, and therefore we have a hard time being able to control it and being able to tame it. And sometimes when you can just name something, oh, I see it all the time when folks come in and say, you have anxiety. There's nothing wrong with you, have anxiety. And I just met with your mom and dad, and she's wound a little tight, and so was your grandmother, and this is probably something you inherited. This isn't something you did or something that you should have necessarily overcome. This is something very real. And as people of faith, in closing, as people of faith, it's really important for us to be able to know about mental health issues and to be able to talk about it so that folks will come forward and share it with us. Because a lot of folks come to God, they come to faith, they come to church when they're hurting. Not everyone, but a lot of folks do. I heard it said one time that most people only come to God when they're hurting and when they need God, and when we've tried everything else. And a lot of times, as people of faith, we are a safer place for people to come and to be able to share their mental health struggles, even than sometimes their physician or going to a counselor and even family members. So when we talk about it, we are actually being conduits of God's grace, of healing, and truly being able to help people. That's why it's so important. And that's how talking about it actually helps people, because it helps them to be able to bring it to the light of God's grace.